The cardiac monitor maintained its steady mechanical beep at precisely 2:17 a.m., each sound echoing slightly off the sterile white walls of the ambulance bay, while my phone, resting on my chest, glowed with a new message from my daughter. Dad, I need $95,000 wired tonight for Valentine's. The resort is threatening to cancel the entire suite if we don't pay the balance by morning. My name is Robert Harlan. I am 63 years old, retired civil engineer, lifelong resident of Toronto. For 38 years, I designed bridges, overpasses, and deep foundation systems that still stand across Ontario, from the seismic upgrades on the Prince Edward Viaduct to the pile foundations supporting high-rises in the South Core. That cold January night in 2025, as a vice-like pain squeezed my sternum and radiated down my left arm in slow, burning waves, my only child was calculating luxury resort fees instead of wondering if her father would survive the hour. I had collapsed alone in the narrow upstairs hallway of our Rosedale home on Glen Road, the same house Margaret and I bought in 1991. She had been gone 6 years to pancreatic cancer. The quiet creak of the hardwood floors still carried echoes of her footsteps. The irony settled in with the paramedics' first dose of sublingual nitroglycerin. The daughter I had raised single-handedly after Margaret's death, the one whose university tuition and first home I had fully funded, treated my heart attack as little more than an inconvenient delay to her Valentine's Day plans. What she had never fully grasped, even after decades of quiet support, was how deliberately and methodically I had always prepared contingency systems, not just in steel and concrete, but in every aspect of my life, including the moment someone might demand far more than had ever been offered freely. I graduated from the University of Toronto Faculty of Applied Science and Engineering in 1984 and joined McLaren Engineers, then a modest Toronto firm specializing in municipal infrastructure. By 1997, I was the lead structural designer on the seismic retrofit of the Prince Edward Viaduct, the graceful concrete arches most Torontonians know simply as the Bloor Street Viaduct. That project required months of night shifts analyzing load paths under extreme wind and earthquake simulations. One overlooked shear key could have compromised the entire structure. Later, from 2004 to 2011, I served as principal engineer on the deep foundation systems for 3 major condominium developments in Liberty Village and the emerging South Core, drilling caissons into bedrock at depths exceeding 30 meters, designing them to withstand both static loads and seismic events. Precision was non-negotiable. Lives depended on it. Margaret and I married on a humid July afternoon in 1986 at a small ceremony in High Park's picnic grounds. She was a grade 10 Canadian history teacher at North Toronto Collegiate Institute for 31 years, known among students for her calm insistence on primary sources and quiet dignity. Her guiding principle was simple and repeated often. People reveal their true character most clearly when they believe no one of importance is watching. She passed away on March 14, 2019, after 17 months of aggressive chemotherapy and palliative care at Princess Margaret Hospital. I still keep the small brass pocket compass she gave me on our 10th anniversary, engraved with "Always North" in the top left drawer of my oak desk. It points only one direction, a reminder that some bearings should never waver. My personal philosophy had always been uncomplicated. Provide what is genuinely needed without expectation of fanfare or repayment. Let time and consistent actions reveal who people truly are.
I paid Emily's full 4-year tuition at Queen's, $148,000 including residence and books. Purchased her first condo in Leslieville outright in 2016 for $420,000 cash. Covered annual 2-week summer rentals of a cottage on Lake Rousseau in Muskoka, approximately $9,500 per season, and quietly established a $220,000 irrevocable trust account at TD Private Wealth Management on King Street West, earmarked exclusively for any future grandchildren. Emily never knew of that trust. I intended the revelation to arrive one day as a meaningful surprise, not a bargaining chip. Emily Harlan, now 34, worked as a senior digital strategist at a mid-sized marketing agency headquartered near King and Spadina. She was articulate, socially graceful, and had long been the organizer of family gatherings, dinners at the Keg on Yonge Street when casual, or Jacobs & Company Steakhouse on King when she wanted to impress a new partner. I admired her drive. It echoed the determination Margaret showed when she returned to full-time teaching after Emily entered kindergarten. Between January 2021 and early 2025, I had transferred her $142,000 for various needs, $24,000 after her Audi Q5 was sideswiped on the Gardner Expressway eastbound, $35,000 toward a wedding venue deposit at the Pillar and Post in Niagara-on-the-Lake that was later canceled, $18,000 for replacement furniture following a break-in at her condo, and numerous smaller amounts for travel, wardrobe updates, and lifestyle gaps. Each transfer came with her promise, "I'll repay when the bonus lands," or "after the next promotion." Each time, I believed her. She assumed my retirement income was limited to Canada Plan payments, old age security, and a modest defined benefit pension from McLaren. She had no awareness of the $1.42 million liquid investment portfolio accumulated partly from royalties on 3 structural health monitoring patents I licensed to the Ministry of Transportation of Ontario and Alberta Transportation between 2008 and 2015, nor of the separate $300,000 emergency line of credit maintained at Scotiabank on Bloor Street. I never felt the need to correct those assumptions. That January night, as the paramedics carefully maneuvered the stretcher down the steep staircase of the Rosedale house, flashlights cutting through the dark hallway, I realized the generous supports I had extended for so long had quietly shifted from appreciated gifts to expected entitlements. The foundation was beginning to strain. The first major request came on December 28, 2025. Emily called at 6:45 p.m. when I was in the attached garage, sorting through archived blueprints from the Prince Edward Viaduct retrofit, yellowed sheets still bearing my handwritten load calculations from 1997. I kept them partly for nostalgia, partly because younger engineers occasionally asked to review real-world examples.
Dad, Valentine's is only 6 weeks away. James suggested Banff. Super romantic, right? Flights from Pearson, 5 nights at the Fairmont Chateau Lake Louise, including the couples package with spa credits. It's $14,800 total. I'm short after holiday shopping and gifts. Could you help? It would mean everything to us. Her voice held the same bright, hopeful tone she used as a child asking for a new bicycle. I pictured her at the kitchen island where she once struggled with long division homework under Margaret's patient guidance. I authorized the transfer the next banking morning from my main checking account at TD Canada Trust on Yonge and St. Clair. Within minutes, she sent a screenshot of the booking confirmation, 3 red heart emojis, and the message, "You're literally the best dad in the world." That should have been enough, but I was still holding the door open. On January 19, 2025, she arrived unannounced at 4:40 p.m. carrying 2 large takeout bags from Pie Northern Thai on Elm Street. We sat at the dining table Margaret and I purchased in 1992 from a small furniture shop on Queen Street West, solid oak,
still bearing the faint scratch from Emily's childhood art project. Between bites of cow soy and green curry, she said, "The Banff trip is booked and paid for the deposit, but now the credit card is completely maxed out from Christmas presents, new ski gear for James, and some last-minute add-ons. I need $38,000 to bring the balance under control before the 21.99% interest starts compounding monthly. You've always said family doesn't let family drown in credit card debt." I studied the framed black-and-white photograph on the sideboard. Margaret and me on our 1987 honeymoon in Halifax, standing on the wooden boardwalk in front of the Citadel Hill, wind in our hair. I authorized the transfer from my savings account that same evening. Emily hugged me tightly for nearly 30 seconds. "This is absolutely the last big ask, Dad, I promise. Next year, I'll be the one taking you out to dinner." A dull, persistent pressure settled across my chest that night as I lay in bed. I dismissed it as indigestion from the rich Thai food and let sleep take over. That should have been enough, but I was still holding the door open. On the night of February 11th into February 12th, 2025, 3 days before Valentine's Day, I awoke abruptly at 3:52 a.m. Crushing pain gripped my sternum like a steel clamp, radiating in burning waves down my left arm, up into my jaw, and across my left shoulder blade. Shortness of breath arrived in shallow, panicked bursts. Cold sweat soaked my pajama shirt within seconds. I managed to roll to the side, reach the bedside landline, and dial 911. While waiting for the ambulance, every second stretching into minutes, my phone vibrated on the nightstand with a text from Emily. "Dad, absolute emergency. The resort just emailed that they need the full remaining $95,000 balance by 9 a.m. tomorrow, or they release the Valentine suite, the private fireside dinner, couples massage, dog sledding excursion, everything. Please send it now. I'm literally panicking. Love you, XX." Sweat dripped into my eyes. Each breath felt like inhaling through a straw. I did not reply. Toronto EMS arrived in 12 minutes. They found me slumped against the hallway wall, pulse thready. At Toronto General Hospital Emergency Department, the triage nurse noted my vitals. The attending cardiologist ordered an immediate ECG. Diagnosis: acute ST elevation myocardial infarction, 95% occlusion of the proximal left anterior descending artery, the widowmaker. I was wheeled to the catheterization lab by 5:50 a.m. 2 drug-eluting stents were placed successfully under local anesthesia. I spent the next 4 days in the cardiac intensive care unit on the 4th floor, constant monitoring, IV heparin, oxygen via nasal cannula, followed by 3 days in the step-down cardiology ward. During those 7 hospital days, Emily sent the following messages. February 12th, 10:42 a.m. "Dad, are you okay? A nurse friend saw you checked in on her Instagram story. What happened exactly?" February 13th, 3:17 p.m. "Still need that $95K transfer ASAP. The resort is now threatening the full cancellation fee plus a penalty." February 14th, 8:59 p.m. "Happy Valentine's, Dad. Hope you're feeling a bit better. But seriously, the money situation is getting bad. You always said you'd be there no matter what." I lay in the semi-dark room, listening to the rhythmic beep of the monitor and the soft hiss of oxygen. Margaret would have confronted this pattern months earlier. I remained silent, conserving energy. Discharged on February 19, 2025, with prescriptions for metoprolol 50 milligrams twice daily, a torvastatin 80 milligrams, dual antiplatelet therapy, aspirin and clopidogrel, and strict orders to avoid physical and emotional stress. At home, I sat at my desk overlooking the Rosedale Ravine, bare trees against gray sky, and opened the secure banking app on my laptop. Cumulative direct transfers to Emily Harlan since January 2021, $194,800. Unauthorized charges on my secondary Scotiabank Visa card, details she knew from helping with online bill payments during the 2020 lockdown, $71,200. Total funds redirected or extracted under repeated urgency, $266,000. I closed the laptop with deliberate slowness. I had everything I needed. February 21st, 2025. I sat at the same wide oak desk where for years I had reviewed viaduct load calculations and foundation drawings late into the night, coffee gone cold beside me. Post-discharge fatigue still dragged at my limbs. Short walks left me winded, but mental clarity had returned fully. Civil engineers do not act on hunches or emotion. We trace every load path to its source, verify every connection point, calculate actual capacity against applied demand, and identify failure points before they occur. I applied the same rigorous methodology now. I began with the private TD Wealth Management account on King Street West, where the $220,000 grandchild trust, seeded quietly in 2017, had grown to $378,000 through conservative compound interest and annual contributions. Next, I pulled the Scotia iTrade investment portfolio statements. $1.42 million in liquid assets, diversified across blue-chip equities, GICs, and bonds. Then the royalty payment history from the 3 structural health monitoring patents licensed to provincial transportation ministries, $1,180,000 received in staggered payments between 2008 and 2024, nearly all reinvested without fanfare.
By 11:20 a.m., the complete financial picture had assembled itself with stark clarity. $266,000 total misdirected or extracted over 49 months through a combination of escalating urgent requests and unauthorized credit card activity. I telephoned David Rosenthal of Rosenthal Klein Barristers on Bay Street, my legal counsel since 1998, when he helped me incorporate the patent-holding entity. "Robert, good to hear your voice. The unauthorized charges on the secondary card clearly constitute fraud under Section 342 of the Criminal Code. The repeated pattern of high-dollar demands timed to your medical crisis strongly supports a claim of undue influence or even constructive trust. We can initiate an immediate freeze on all linked accounts and prepare formal demand for restitution." His tone held professional concern, tempered by long familiarity. Mine remained measured. "Proceed with the account freeze today. Prepare the demand letter for $266,000, itemized." I sat in near total silence for almost 90 minutes afterward, Margaret's brass compass resting in my open palm, its needle steady on north. She would have recognized the slow erosion of boundaries long before the first artery occluded. She always did. Monday, February 24th, 2025, I executed 7 precise actions before noon. 1. Directed TD Canada Trust to freeze all joint access, viewable, or linked accounts and credit facilities associated with Emily Harlan. 2. Requested certified duplicate statements covering the past 5 full years for forensic accounting review. 3. Instructed Scotiabank to block any transaction involving Emily above $100, effective immediately. 4. Authorized David Rosenthal to serve a formal demand letter for full restitution of $266,000, grounded in conversion, fraud, and undue influence doctrines. 5. Transferred the current $378,000 grandchild trust, plus an additional $992,000 drawn from the investment portfolio into a newly established irrevocable spendthrift trust with beneficiaries limited to my sister's 2 adult children and the Ontario Engineering Society's Margaret Harlan Memorial Scholarship Fund for female engineering students. 6.
arranged for a licensed locksmith to rekey all exterior locks on the Rosedale house, and for Vivint to update every security system code and camera access credential. 7. Booked a follow-up telehealth appointment with my cardiologist to discuss integrating boundary setting and stress reduction into long-term cardiac rehabilitation protocol. The cardiologist had projected 3 months for physical recovery. My own recalibration, structural, emotional, financial, began that same afternoon with quiet finality. March 8, 2025, 7:42 p.m. The Vivint security camera feed showed Emily's leased black Audi Q5 pulling into the driveway, headlights cutting across the snow-dusted lawn. She stepped out, coat unbuttoned despite the wind, tried her old brass key in the front door lock. It refused to turn. She rang the bell 6 times in rapid succession, sharp, insistent chimes echoing through the foyer. A text arrived seconds later. "Dad, the door isn't working. Open up, please. We really need to talk about the Valentine money situation." I opened the door from inside. She stepped across the threshold without waiting for an invitation, cheeks flushed from the March cold, eyes wide with a mix of worry and expectation. "Thank God you're home and okay. The resort kept the $15,000 deposit but canceled the suite and every single add-on. I'm out $95,000 plus incidentals, and now James is threatening to end things. You have to help fix this, Dad." I remained silent, letting her words fill the foyer. "I know you were really sick. I understand that now, I swear. But you're home. You're recovering. Just wire the money tomorrow, first thing. I'll repay every single cent when my March bonus hits. $22,000 guaranteed, maybe more with commission. You've never let me down before. You've always been the one who comes through." She continued uninterrupted for nearly 4 minutes, the strain on their relationship, the social embarrassment if no vacation photos appeared on her feed, how this entire situation had spiraled from a simple misunderstanding, how I had always been her reliable safety net through every crisis since childhood. When she finally paused, breath quick, eyes searching my face, I spoke once, voice low and even. "Emily, between January 2021 and February 11, 2025, I transferred you $194,800 directly from my accounts. You also placed $72,200 on unauthorized charges on my secondary Scotiabank Visa card, details you knew from assisting with online bill payments during the 2020 lockdown. The documented total is $266,000. Her expression shifted in rapid sequence, initial confusion, then defensiveness, then sharp indignation. "That's not fair at all. You gave those amounts because you wanted to help. The card I was just borrowing until payday or bonus. You always said family helps family no matter what. You meant that." The final $15,000 request arrived at 3:54 a.m. while I was in the midst of an active ST elevation myocardial infarction. Paramedics entered the house 12 minutes later. You sent 2 additional follow-up messages from the Toronto General Lobby the next day, asking why the funds had not yet been transferred. She looked down at the Persian rug Margaret selected in 2001 during a trip to Kensington Market. "I didn't realize it was life-threatening. You always recover from everything. You're the strongest person I know." I handed her a single sheet of letterhead paper, the formal demand prepared by David Rosenthal. It itemized the unauthorized transactions, outlined the pattern of escalating financial demands, and required full repayment of $266,000 within 30 calendar days, failing which civil proceedings would commence in the Superior Court of Justice, with potential referral to authorities for the fraud component. This is neither a negotiation nor a request. It is a requirement. She stared at the document until her hands trembled faintly. "Are you actually doing this? You're suing your own daughter over money you gave willingly?" "I am protecting the remaining structure of the life Margaret and I built together, one beam at a time." She left without another word. The front door closed with a soft, final click. Over the next few weeks, David Rosenthal confirmed progress. All linked accounts frozen, notice of claim properly served, a small claims action filed in Toronto for the credit card portion under simplified procedure rules, and a larger civil claim commenced in Superior Court for the balance. Emily made no repayment within the 30-day window. My longtime colleague from the Viaduct retrofit project, Michael Chen, now retired and living in Etobicoke, stopped by one Saturday afternoon with 2 coffees from Balzac's on King Street. He glanced around the quieter house, noted the changed locks, and said only one sentence. "You built things to last, Robert. Sometimes that includes knowing exactly when a support member has reached its design limit and must be replaced."
A few weeks later, my 12-year-old nephew, Daniel, Emily's cousin on my sister's side, visited for a Saturday of chess and homemade beef chili. While setting up the board on the dining table, he looked up directly and said, "Uncle Rob, she was mean to you when you were in the hospital. She kept asking for money instead of asking if you were okay. That's not what family is supposed to do." The simple truth in his voice landed with more weight than any court filing or demand letter ever could. These days, I walk the Rosedale Ravine Trail every morning at 7:15 a.m., regardless of weather, rain, snow, or early spring thaw. The cardiologist labels it Phase 2 cardiac rehabilitation. I think of it as recalibrating perspective. 30 to 40 minutes of steady movement along the paths beside the Don River, listening to the water, the occasional red-winged blackbird call, the distant hum of the city waking. It is enough. The Rosedale house on Glen Road is quieter now. I sold the Leslieville condo Emily once owned. The net proceeds of $682,000 after fees and closing costs were divided evenly between the Margaret Harlan Memorial Scholarship Fund at the Ontario Engineering Society and a local food bank where Margaret volunteered for 15 years. I kept only what I need and what still feels like home: the oak desk, the brass compass, the framed photographs. Emily has not contacted me since that March evening. A distant cousin mentioned in passing that she moved to Vancouver in late spring 2025. I do not seek further updates. That chapter closed when the last lock was turned. My sister's son Daniel calls twice a month, usually Sunday evenings around 8 p.m. He asks detailed questions about old bridge designs, how suspension cables distribute load, why certain viaducts were retrofitted when others were replaced entirely, whether I ever regret retiring when I did. He never asks for money. The connection feels honest and unburdened. I have begun having coffee once or twice a month with Ellen Whitaker, a retired landscape architect who lives 4 streets over on Glenrose Avenue. Nothing formal, just pour-over coffee at a small independent cafe on Yonge near St. Clair. Our conversations drift easily between city planning history, the best walking routes through High Park in different seasons, and occasional shared memories of Toronto before the condominium boom swallowed so much open sky. It is gentle. It is sufficient. If you are watching this and you have spent decades quietly constructing supports for others, financial, emotional, structural, while privately wondering when someone might notice the cumulative load you carry alone, hear this from someone who learned the lesson through pain. A bridge engineer eventually internalizes that every structure possesses a finite capacity. Exceed it without additional reinforcement, redundancy, or recalibration, and collapse becomes not a possibility, but a mathematical certainty. Trust, generosity, and even family relationships obey the same engineering principles. My earlier philosophy, give quietly, expect nothing in return, was born of good intention, but remained incomplete. The revised version is simpler, harder, and more accurate. Give what genuinely strengthens both sides of the equation.
Withdraw calmly, decisively, and without apology when only one side continues to draw benefit at the expense of the other. My advice, if you choose to take it, conduct your own structural audit before the next heavy load arrives. Identify every support beam, every connection point, every area of fatigue or overstress. Reinforce what can still bear weight safely. Replace, reroute, or remove what has already exceeded its design life. I once believed grace meant holding the door open indefinitely, no matter the strain. Now I understand that true grace also includes knowing precisely, calmly, and without regret exactly when to close it.